What's going on YouTube? We're back today. We know it's been a couple weeks since we put up a video, so this one's gonna be a good one. We're doing a rebuild on a Lanair burner. So we already did the hard part, took it apart, cleaned everything. Now I'm making a video on putting it all back together. This is the end product right here, if I can ram. And we already got a block in there. Here is our other one. We're gonna be rebuilding. This is our kit here that we sell, specifically the deluxe rebuild kit that has all the O-rings you're gonna need, including this diaphragm for in between. We'll get to that later, but I'll pause here and post a picture of it so that you have that, but I'm gonna walk through it all start to finish so that after you've cleaned it, you're able to get it back together and up and running. I'm gonna quick go through the tools you're gonna need for this. You don't need much. I have a 7/16 and a 1/2 inch wrench, an adjustable wrench, Phillips screwdriver, flashlight, and then I also have 3 30-seconds, 5 30-seconds, and 3/16 hex heads, which you'll need. Other than that, you'll need some kind of transmission lubricant, something for the O-rings when you put it together, and then some thread sealant. We will not be using tape, just the dope there. Next, I'm going to quickly go through the different parts. I don't know all the specific names, but I'm going to call this the big square block, the small square block, the long block. We got our retention head, the 2 heaters, the mount for the electrodes, front cover, 2 long bolts for the top, our spring. This is the internal plug, 3 small external plugs, our diaphragm, which is 3 pieces, our 2 long bolts for the top, 4 bolts for the diaphragm, 6 for the front cover. This is our nut and washers for the top of the igniter, and then this is our little clamp and small washer for the small block. This goes inside the diaphragm, and I believe that's, oh, and then we've got this here. Before I keep going, I don't want to forget there are 2 parts that I didn't have up on the table. That's these 2 thermostats and these 2 adapters, but these are also part of the block. First, I'm going to start with the 3 plugs that go into this block, the square block. We have the front here, then this hole, and this hole all get plugged with the 3 plugs. And that's your 5 30-seconds hex head. So I'm going to take just a little bit of thread sealant dope around the outer edge. Make sure none is on the ends there, and thread them in. Next, I'm going to thread in our air heater, and that's the shorter one that's thicker. That's just going to thread in here, and for that we don't need any thread sealant. I might put a little bit, but we're just going to make it snug because it's actually open on the other side. Now we're going to put our front cover on. So we're going to take our 4 O-rings there And before I keep going with this, I do want to say these O-rings are all different sizes except for the 4 and the 2. These are all very similar, but I do have them in size order. So I would just recommend laying them all out like this. And we're going to take the 4 big ones for the front cover. I'm going to take a little bit of the transmission lube and coat the O-rings as I set them in place. Front cover, gonna go on just like that. And we're going to take our 6 bolts and hand start them. And take about 5-30 seconds, tighten each one. Next, I'm taking the long block. We already have our air fitting in the side, right bottom. But I'm going to go to the front. We're going to put our O-ring on, which is long block front in between the little square block. And that's this one because right on the end here is where this little block is going to go. So again, some lubricant there. The second O-ring that goes in here is this bottom left, and it's very tiny. It's the smallest one in the package, bottom left of long block. Before I put the small block on the front, we're going to thread in our oil heater. So I'm going to put a little bit of dope right on the threads here, but not much so that it doesn't get inside with the oil. Now I'll take our 7/16 wrench. Next, we're going to slide the plunger in here, but before we do that, we need to put our plug, the end of plunger, inside of this groove, which is pretty tough. Alright, as you can see, I was able to get it in with a flathead screwdriver. That was pretty rough. Next, we're going to take this spring, put it on the end of that there, and slide it in. Now we're going to take a small block. Before we can put this up against the long block, we do need to put our plunger quad ring inside of there, and then our washer and clip. And you can use a flathead to get the quad rings in there. You just have to be careful not to damage them. Next is our washer. And our clip. Here's our clip. This clip works. Factory is a little star, but those can get damaged, so we're using this as an alternative. Next, I'm going to take this little rod, put some lubricant on it, and slide it into our quad ring just so that I know it moves freely. Okay, and we're ready to go against the long block now with that quad ring on the inside. Now I'm going to take our diaphragm, the 3 pieces. We've got our silver, then the spring down, and then our brass piece on top. And in between there, it's going to be our diaphragm. Okay, now we're going to take our outside front of little square block diaphragm O-ring, and that goes right over this like that. A little bit of lubricant on there, and this is going to screw right into our small, well, before that goes in, first we got to put our push rod right there. Now we can put on our diaphragm. Okay. Now we're going to attach the long block on top of the square block, and order to do that, we need one O-ring there, the small of these, which is top of big square block. This is the front. This is also the front. So it's going to line up just like that. Line up the holes. Next, I'm gonna mount the igniter. That just goes on right here. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna put in our quad ring, which is the last one on the right side there. Nozzle quad ring, and this does need to go inside before the nozzle. Some people will slide this on the nozzle and then put the nozzle in, but really this should go in first, then you slide the nozzle in. So I'm going to take a 5/16 nut driver, and that fits perfectly to push this into the little groove in there. There it is, it's seated perfect. Now we can do the electrodes, washer, lock washer, and our nut. This will need to be adjusted once the nozzle's in so that I can know the depth. The way we do this is we usually have them either in line with the edge of the nozzle, the end of the electrodes, or just slightly behind it so they don't get gunked up. You don't want to tighten this too tight or you will crack the electrode ceramic, that it's kind of fragile. So just go tight where it's snug and stop. Now for the retention lid, slide this on with the nut on the bottom. You want just a tiny gap on the inside, a little bit larger on the outside. I'm going to put in the 2 thermostats I mentioned earlier. It's screwing right there into these 4 small holes. And this hole right here, that just remains open. It's an extra. Now we have our gauge and fuel line adapters, which will take the last 2 O-rings. Gonna lube these up, and then they go right on the ends there. At this point, the only thing you should have left to do are these 2 adapters, and if you see this big screw at the very end and you don't know where it goes, then you missed a step. This actually goes inside this hole as a plug for one of the passageways before the adapter goes in. So you might be able to see right there where it screws in. So we're going to do that and then put in our adapters and we'll be done. Now for the adapters, you have to be very careful not to strip the block out, which can happen. So you want to hand thread these in as far as you can. That one went in very nice. Both of these went in very nice, and then just snug them up a hair, but if you go too tight, you will strip it. So just enough so that the gasket seals and there's no leaks. But with that, our Lanair block is complete. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments about how to wire this up or anything else about our burners, then let us know.